Bullied Kid Prepares for Ice Age. A person in a green jacket, brandishing a cleaver, proclaimed that the deceased could also serve as sustenance, urging not to waste anything. Meanwhile, another individual chopped vegetables, and yet another person restrained Zhang Yi as he was being prepared by a lady. Amidst this, a person comforted him, stating that they finally had food. Zhang Yi cried out in pain, exclaiming how much it hurt. As he endured this, a new arrival caught his eye, a lady, none other than Yu Qing. She mentioned how she was the one who had opened the door, demanding an extra share of the provisions. Without hesitation, she was given a helping hand. Zhang Yi silently chided himself, realizing his own naivety and regretting his kindness. He vowed to repay this cruelty 100-fold, should an afterlife await. Later, Zhang Yi awoke in his apartment, unharmed, the disaster yet to unfold. It dawned on him that he seemed to have been reborn, a month before the catastrophe was to strike. This cataclysmic event, caused by a meteorite impact, plunged Earth's temperatures to -60 to -70 degrees Celsius. Determined to ensure his survival, Zhang Yi resolved to gather supplies swiftly, planning revenge against the bandits who had ended his life. He was keenly aware of the need for both protection and provisions, along with the necessity of acquiring weapons to fend off potential threats. Swiftly, he found himself in an alternate dimension, envisioning it as a warehouse teeming with vital resources. With the possibility of surviving decades in such harsh conditions, Zhang Yi was resolute in transferring all his supplies to this dimension. Contemplating the impending global apocalypse, Zhang Yi lamented the loss of culinary delights. His first impulse was to indulge in his favorite foods, leading him to visit one of the most prestigious restaurants. There, he ordered an array of dishes totaling 51,451 yuan. With a voracious appetite, Zhang Yi devoured everything in front of him, pondering how, during the impending disaster, people would beg for mere cups of instant noodles. Leaving the restaurant several hours later, Zhang Yi declined a very important person customer card offered by the waiter. Passing by, Yu Qing and Li Keining, acquaintances from before, were surprised by his apparent affluence. Upon their greeting, Zhang Yi noticed Yu Qing, the very person whose actions had led to his demise. However, he chose not to dwell on this past betrayal, informing his friends of his plan to visit the store for essentials. The friends mentioned that they were actually on their way to pick up a few items themselves. They decided to join forces and headed into a nearby store together. Inside, they were taken aback as Zhang Yi began to fill his cart with nearly everything in sight. He explained that life could throw unexpected challenges, like a global ice age, and it was best to be prepared. However, Yu Qing and Li Keining didn't quite take his idea seriously. Instead, they suggested Zhang Yi treat them to dinner as a token of appreciation for their help. In response, Zhang Yi proposed a group dinner for the next month, citing his current pressing matters. Seeing his friend's emotional outburst, Yu Qing reassured Zhang Yi that her friend was simply tired, asking him not to take her words too seriously. Li Keining, on the other hand, apologized to Zhang Yi, recognizing him as a genuinely good person. A couple of hours later, Zhang Yi, Yu Qing, and Li Keining were ready to leave the store, their carts overflowing with various food items. Zhang Yi noticed the curious stares of passers-by, but he paid them no mind. His thoughts were consumed by the drive to survive and seek vengeance for his death. As they made their way out, Auntie Lin passed by with her young grandson, astonished by the abundance of food in Zhang Yi's cart. Auntie Lin was both surprised and alarmed, fearing that Zhang Yi might deprive others of food. Meanwhile, her grandson attempted to sneak a chocolate bar from Yu Qing's cart without being noticed. Zhang Yi swiftly intervened, reclaiming the chocolate from the child. In response, the child began to cry and threaten Zhang Yi. Unfazed, Zhang Yi warned the child back. This exchange caught Auntie Lin's attention, leading her to criticize Zhang Yi for scaring her grandson. She insisted on buying the chocolate from Zhang Yi, promising to return with the money later. Instead of handing over the chocolate, Zhang Yi presented his phone to Auntie Lin, stating that she could either pay for the chocolate bar immediately or go to the store to buy it herself. This only angered Auntie Lin further, as she threatened Zhang Yi with consequences for his perceived greed. However, Zhang Yi paid her no further mind. Soon, Zhang Yi found himself back home with all his purchases. Li Kaining kept reminding him to extend an invitation to Yu Qing to visit them. Following his plans, Zhang Yi first inspected the storage conditions of the food in his dimension, before turning his attention to the search for medicine and firearms. He knew that obtaining firearms would be increasingly difficult, whereas acquiring melee weapons and bows with arrows posed less of a challenge. The next day, Zhang Yi checked on the food he had left in his dimensional storage. He observed that the meat and vegetables remained fresh, but the live fish had perished. Understanding the time discrepancy in his dimension, Zhang Yi decided to conduct a similar experiment with ready-made products. Subsequently, Zhang Yi made a call to organize a grand party for his friends. Upon speaking with the administrator, he was informed that such an event would cost at least 1 million on, requiring an advance payment of 200,000 on. Zhang Yi promptly transferred the prepayment and then proceeded to use his house as collateral for the remaining balance. Upon mortgaging his house, Zhang Yi found 6 million deposited into his account. He calculated his upcoming expenses for home renovations, medicine, and weapons, realizing that his funds fell short. Just then, a person approached Zhang Yi with an offer from the company they worked for. Zhang Yi was pleased to have swiftly found a way to acquire a substantial sum of money. This individual eventually introduced Zhang Yi to their boss to discuss the terms of the loan. The director inquired about the amount and duration of the loan Zhang Yi desired. Zhang Yi expressed his need for as much money as possible within a short time frame, pledging to repay it all within 3 months, irrespective of the interest rate. However, before finalizing the deal, the director requested collateral. Zhang Yi proposed his house and expensive car, valued at over 5 million collectively, as collateral. The director expressed doubts about Zhang Yi's ability to repay such a substantial amount on time. Zhang Yi attempted to negotiate, suggesting a loan of 4 million with a return of 7 million. Agreeing to these terms, the director and Zhang Yi signed the agreement. Zhang Yi left the office pleased, confident that he had secured the 4 million loan, as he believed these individuals would likely perish soon after the disaster began, relieving him of the repayment obligation. After deciding to fortify himself against the impending catastrophe, Zhang Yi headed to the office of one of the largest security companies, the same company from which he had secured his loan. There, he was greeted by the manager of the commercial department, who eagerly listened to Zhang Yi's request for a shelter capable of withstanding the end of the world. The manager assured him that their company could create such a shelter and presented various plans for consideration. Among the features outlined in the shelter designs were thick steel walls, bulletproof glass, a sophisticated ventilation system, advanced video surveillance, and armored doors. As Zhang Yi reviewed these plans, he focused on the idea of turning his house into a sturdy metal fortress, impervious to extreme temperatures and unwanted intrusion. The manager assured him that their company could construct a shelter almost anywhere, regardless of the property's size or location. In a candid moment, the manager revealed that before his current role, he had been an international mercenary with extensive knowledge of such shelters. Intrigued by this background, Zhang Yi inquired if the manager could assist him in obtaining firearms. The manager explained that it would take some time to arrange, as acquiring weapons for a stranger was not a simple matter. Zhang Yi mentioned an encounter with individuals carrying machine guns, hinting at his ability to make connections for such needs. Appreciating Zhang Yi's understanding, the manager promised to work on the weapons procurement while the shelter construction was underway, a process estimated to take up to 2 weeks. With firearms in the works, Zhang Yi turned his attention to acquiring melee weapons such as axes and clubs. He then visited a hunting store, utilizing his hunter's license to purchase a crossbow and arrows. Content with his progress, he returned home about an hour later. Upon his arrival, Zhang Yi found several food trucks and a curious crowd gathered outside his home. Spotting his uncle overseeing the delivery, Zhang Yi explained that he had ordered the substantial amount of food and directed the trucks to proceed. Meanwhile, neighbors speculated on the cost of Zhang Yi's lavish order. Among them was Yu Qing, who couldn't help but wonder about Zhang Yi's apparent wealth and resolved not to embarrass herself in his presence. Though Zhang Yi noticed her among the crowd, He feigned ignorance, plotting to rid himself of her at the earliest opportunity. Boxes filled with culinary delights from the hotel were soon arranged before Zhang Yi. Overwhelmed with the abundance of food now at his disposal, he wasted no time in transferring them to his dimensional storage. The following day, construction workers and engineers from the security company arrived to transform Zhang Yi's entire apartment into an impenetrable fortress. Meanwhile, Zhang Yi's neighbors began to question his sanity, observing his extravagant food purchases and the fortress-like modifications to his home. At that moment, the manager from the security company reached out to Zhang Yi, informing him that an acquaintance would provide him with a firearm within 3 days. After confirming the arrangement, Zhang Yi notified the security company employees of his decision to stay in a hotel room during the construction. Subsequently, Zhang Yi visited an acquaintance who managed a warehouse, offering to purchase the entire contents at double the price. In exchange, the acquaintance would take a brief vacation. Upon inspecting the warehouse, Zhang Yi found an array of products, tools, and essentials that would prove invaluable during the impending disaster. While there, he noticed Zhou Peng, one of the warehouse workers, about to ask Yu Qing out to a concert over the weekend. Upon hearing Yu Qing's response, Zhou Peng immediately accused Zhang Yi of causing Yu Qing's back pain during their recent store trip. However, Yu Qing interjected, claiming she was not in pain, only experiencing a slight tingling in her lower back. Zhang Yi realized that Yu Qing had already revealed their activities to others. Despite Zhou Peng's insistence that Zhang Yi compensate Yu Qing with 500 per doctor visit, Zhang Yi reminded Zhou Peng that Yu Qing had willingly assisted him and that Zhou Peng had no authority to demand payment. This confrontation left Zhou Peng visibly frightened, warning Yu Qing to steer clear of Zhang Yi. Yu Qing, unnerved by Zhang Yi's drastic changes, decided to reach out to him directly to understand the transformation. However, Zhang Yi chose to ignore her messages. Frustrated, Yu Qing sought her friend Li Caning's opinion on Zhang Yi's behavior. Li Caning simply labeled Zhang Yi as abnormal, advising Yu Qing not to dwell on it. About a week later, Zhang Yi received a shipment of firearms, providing him with the means to defend against any potential intruders. Shortly after, a large package containing various medicines and first aid supplies arrived. Zhang Yi realized he needed more supplies and enlisted the help of a courier. Meanwhile, he received a message from the security company manager, informing him that the conversion of his apartment into a shelter had been completed. Zhang Yi returned to find his walls sheathed in thick steel, an advanced ventilation system installed, and the windows fortified with bulletproof glass, stronger than the steel cladding. Grateful for the thorough work, Zhang Yi thanked the manager and his team, though he couldn't help but feel sorry that they might never witness the effectiveness of the bunker during the impending apocalypse. As the end approached, Zhang Yi received his final order, a truckload of clean water, recognizing its crucial importance during the calamity. His kind uncle, curious about the water order. 3 days before the catastrophe, Zhang Yi arrived early at work, determined to carry out his plan without suspicion. He discreetly added sleeping pills to his colleagues' tea, inviting them all for a break. Soon, all the workers were sound asleep, allowing Zhang Yi to begin his plunder of the warehouse. Turning off the security systems and CCTV cameras, Zhang Yi swiftly transported everything to his dimensional storage: gasoline, toys, food, household supplies, and more. Within moments, the warehouse was emptied, save for a small batch of goods left behind in a corner. After transporting all the contents of the warehouse to his dimensional storage, Zhang Yi decided to inspect the boxes. To his delight, he found sets of clothing designed to withstand extremely low temperatures, a valuable asset for the impending apocalypse. With every box emptied, Zhang Yi returned to his sleeping colleagues, discreetly disposing of the sleeping pills to avoid suspicion. Hours later, as his colleagues began to awaken, they were shocked to discover the warehouse completely emptied. Zhang Yi feigned surprise, acting as though he had just learned of the theft. A concerned employee approached him, holding a phone through which the director called to inquire about the situation. Answering the call, Zhang Yi listened as the director grew increasingly furious, blaming him for the disappearance of the warehouse items. Zhang Yi defended himself, explaining the impossibility of emptying the warehouse alone in such a short time. He suggested involving the authorities for a proper investigation. The director reluctantly agreed, promising to contact the necessary authorities. Zhang Yi assured his colleagues that specialists would arrive for the investigation, urging them to cooperate. He then advised them not to worry, emphasizing that it was not their fault they had fallen asleep at work. A representative from the investigative commission instructed Zhang Yi to report any details he discovered and requested that he remain in the city until the investigation concluded. Unconcerned, Zhang Yi had no plans of leaving. As he walked home, Zhang Yi caught news on a large screen about the theft at the warehouse. With only 2 days remaining before the global ice age, the temperature had already plummeted, sending people into a panicked retreat to their homes. Acknowledging the impending catastrophe, Zhang Yi realized the world as they knew it was coming to an end. Meanwhile, Zhang Yi slept soundly in his bed, unaffected by the global cooling crisis. In the midst of the night, Zhang Yi received a call from Yu Qing, who questioned him about his knowledge of the impending cataclysm. Zhang Yi casually mentioned learning about it from a friend, prompting Yu Qing to inquire why he hadn't warned her. Deciding he had heard enough, Zhang Yi abruptly ended the call, leaving Yu Qing startled and concerned. Unfazed by her worries, while enjoying his meal, Zhang Yi received a message from Yu Qing, requesting some food and promising to reimburse him for the costs. Zhang Yi found her request naive, amused at the thought of simply giving away his reserves. Instead, he decided to playfully tease Yu Qing by sending her a photo of his steak and wine. Yu Qing was taken aback, shocked that Zhang Yi would flaunt such indulgence while she was struggling with hunger. Fueled by anger, Yu Qing contemplated sending an insulting message to Zhang Yi. However, she hesitated, realizing she didn't want to completely sever communication with him. Deciding to assess the situation in the building, Zhang Yi accessed the video surveillance system. Through the cameras, he observed Auntie Lin attempting to convince residents to stay indoors until the snowfall subsided. She reassured them that the snow would likely end within 2 or 3 days, advising against venturing out to buy supplies. However, some residents voiced concerns, pointing out the uncertainty of when the snow would stop and the potential for steep price hikes if they didn't stock up. Auntie Lin persisted in dissuading them from going out, warning of shortages and rising prices. Zhang Yi emerged from the crowd, directing a stern warning at Auntie Lin. He cautioned her that if the snow continued unabated, leading to starvation and suffering among the people, she would bear the responsibility. His words hung in the air as he returned to his fortified apartment, preparing for the days ahead. Watching the news updates, Zhang Yi braced himself for the challenges of the global ice age, knowing he had taken every precaution to endure the harsh conditions. Thank you for tuning into my videos. I hope you've been enjoying them. I'd like to ask for a small favor. I've noticed that only 7.7% of you are subscribed to my channel. To all my viewers, I greatly appreciate your support in helping my channel grow. Please consider hitting the like button, subscribing, and sharing your feedback with me. Your input will help me enhance the quality of my videos. Thank you all so much, and lots of love to each and every one of you.